A hot summer afternoon in August 1997. Deep inside a shaded, overgrown woodland area, a small stream trickles quietly. But on this specific Sunday, the water isn't clear. Something heavy, completely out of place, is resting on the banks of the brook. A discarded stained piece of household furniture is blocking the water's path. As a group of young schoolboys approach to see what it is, what they're about to see change this community forever, starting one of the most haunting, cold-blooded cases the Steel City has ever known. To really understand the tragedy of this cold case, you have to know the gentle, warm person who was taken. Patricia Grainger was just 25 years old, known to her family and friends as Pat. Pat faced unique challenges in her everyday life. She lived with learning difficulties that made her exceptionally trusting and friendly and vulnerable to the world around her. Patricia Grainger was born on 13th of January 1972. Pat lived with her family in a busy home right in the heart of the Parson Cross estate. Her entire world revolved around her family, and most importantly, her 5-year-old son, Daniel. Despite her daily struggles, Pat was a devoted mum who found immense happiness in the simple joys of raising her little boy. Those who knew her well described her as a person who always saw the absolute best in everyone she met. She dreamt of a quiet, stable and peaceful life where she could watch her son grow up safely, surrounded by the community she had known her entire life. She was completely defenceless, possessing a childlike innocence that made her an easy target for a predator. Early August 1997 saw a summer heatwave peaking across South Yorkshire. Pat was living her daily routine, walking around her local estate and spending time with her boy. On Thursday, 7th of August 1997, there was a confirmed sighting at Northern General Hospital of Patricia and a white male. Did you see Patricia and a white male on 7th of August 1997 at the area of the Northern General Hospital? Panic spread through the Granger household. It was completely unlike Pat to stay away from her 5-year-old son for long. The family frantically contacted local friends, walked the nearby streets and alerted the authorities. Because of her learning difficulties, her vulnerability meant every passing hour increased the family's dread. At the time, no one on the estate reported seeing where she went, who she was with, or what happened to her after she stepped outside, until several witnesses came forward. The agonising days of searching came to a sudden, catastrophic end on Sunday, 10th of August 1997. Deep in the thick woods of a local nature area, known to residents as Tong Gutter, a group of local schoolboys were playing near the stream. The brook runs directly behind the rows of houses on Deerlands Avenue. As the boys tracked the water, they noticed a heavy, waterlogged item dumped directly in the middle of the brook. It was a large discarded divan bed base. Looking closer through the murky running water and overgrown weeds, wedged firmly underneath the rotten bed base was a semi-naked human body. The boy screamed for help and alerted a passing adult, who immediately dialed 999. Within minutes, the quiet woodland was swarming with uniformed officers. The area was sealed off with blue police tape. When forensics carefully lifted the heavy bed base, they confirmed the worst. The body belonged to the missing 25-year-old Patricia Grainger. Patricia, from where she lived on Buchanan Road, was murdered less than 10 minutes walk away. The forensic team and medical investigation revealed a level of sheer brutality that left hardened detectives visibly shaken. Pat had been subjected to a sustained, sickening act of violence. The official reports detail that Pat had been brutally strangled. She was stabbed more than 20 times, injuries concentrated across her face and neck areas, and the monster subjected Pat to a severe assault. Police confirmed that despite decades of investigations, the exact weapons were never recovered, and her killer's never been caught. The timeline showed she had been missing for almost a week, and the attacker had used extreme physical force to overpower her. The most critical finding from the forensic report was the water found in her lungs. This detail ultimately proved to investigators that Patricia was still alive when she was placed in the stream. South Yorkshire Police immediately launched a massive murder inquiry, setting up an incident hub to process leads. From the very first day, the investigation faced a massive physical and environmental setbacks. Because Pat's body had been completely submerged in the active flowing current of the brook before discovery, critical forensic evidence and touch DNA was severely degraded or entirely washed away by the water. In the weeks following the grim discovery at Tong Gutter, murder detectives focused their attention on the local estate. It is understood that 3 local suspects, 2 women and a man in their 30s and 40s, were intensely questioned about Pat's whereabouts in the days leading up to her death. After giving conflicting accounts to investigators, all 3 were arrested as police tried to untangle the timeline. The pressure on South Yorkshire Police to find answers intensified, leading to a major breakthrough when a 45-year-old man was formally arrested and charged with Pat's murder. However, the prosecution's case quickly began to unravel. When a key witness suddenly withdrew their statement, the legal framework completely collapsed, and the suspect was released without ever facing a jury trial. Over a decade later, in 2008, cold case detectives received fresh intelligence. Acting on new leads, police executed a high-profile morning raid on the estate, arresting 2 men aged 51 and 59 on suspicion of murder. However, after an intense round of questioning, both men were released on bail without charge due to insufficient evidence. Valuable early hours were lost before the major incident team was fully mobilised, allowing the attacker ample time to clean up, destroy evidence and vanish back into the shadows of the city. Following the discovery of the body, the local media erupted with shock. The Sheffield Star and local TV broadcasts carried front-page warnings. The brutal details sent shockwaves through the close-knit Parson Cross community. Parents strictly banned their children from playing in the local woodlands, and a heavy atmosphere of fear and deep suspicion settled over the estate. Statistically speaking, stranger attacks are much rarer than people think. In the UK, anywhere from 60% to 80% of murder victims were acquainted with their killer. The threat almost always comes from inside a person's known world. While filming on the Parson Cross estate, I actually spoke with a local resident They told me that it was their own relative, one of the young boys that made the gruesome discovery. Crucially, they also shared the rumours and perspectives that were circulating within the neighbourhood back then. I must stress that these are strictly local speculations and unverified opinions, not established facts. According to the resident, some neighbours at the time suspected there may have been ongoing issues at home. Furthermore, community rumours led some locals to speculate that the perpetrator could potentially be someone known to Pat or even a relative. This drawing exists because of an eyewitness sighting. To this day, South Yorkshire Police have never released the identity of the person who saw him. To protect her safety and privacy, her name remains completely withheld from the public record. According to police files, one witness spotted Patricia at 7:45 a.m. that morning at the junction of Aldgate Crescent and Aldgate Road, talking to an unidentified white man with dark, greasy or gelled hair. On the evening of Saturday, 9th of August 1997, 25-year-old Patricia Grainger was seen alive for the last time. The final confirmed sighting at 6:30 p.m, when another witness saw her walking on Adlington Road, Parson Cross, wearing a dark sweater, a black skirt and white trainers. During the quiet early hours of Sunday morning that followed, the local woman who saw the suspect was walking through Parson Cross Estate near Adrian Crescent and Collinson Road. She crossed paths with an unfamiliar man. According to police reports, she stated that she felt so intimidated by his behaviour that she was afraid to walk past him. Later that same day, on Sunday 10th of August, Patricia's body was discovered by children playing in a nearby brook. It is believed that Patricia Grainger's body lay undiscovered in the water for around 24 hours before she was found. The anonymous witness sat down with police artists to recall the facial features, describing a scruffy, gaunt man with deeply hollowed out cheekbones and distinct staring eyes. The man was described as white, aged about 30, between 5 feet 6 inches and 5 feet 8 inches tall, with dark hair, greasy or gelled. Because no real specific individual has ever been located or named from this drawing, he remains entirely unidentified. For decades, the police sketch has been the only face connected to the tragic murder. It's the only visual clue investigators have ever had. But a sketch can only tell part of the story. Pencil lines leave room for interpretation, and every missing detail makes it easier for a killer to disappear into the background. So what if we could look beyond the drawing? What if we could see the man the eyewitness actually described? Using the exact facial proportions provided by the eyewitness, AI has reconstructed what this suspect most likely looked like in 1997, transforming a static police sketch into a lifelike face. Hollowed out cheekbones, the scruffy jawline, and those distinct piercing eyes, the same eyes the witness said deeply intimidated them. But no one stays frozen in time. Nearly 30 years later, age would have changed his appearance. Skin would begin to sag, bone structure would shift, and the passage of time would reshape his face. Using the same distinctive facial structure, AI has reconstructed how this suspect may look today. Older, different at first glance, but beneath the years the same defining features remain. The same bone structure, the same eyes, and a face that could be still living, unnoticed amongst us. 5 of these faces spark a memory, no matter how small it may seem. Contact South Yorkshire Police or Crime Stoppers immediately. That one recognition could help bring Patricia Grainger's killer to justice. The true cost of the unsolved horror is carried every single day by her family who have lost their loved one. Pat's son, Daniel Granger, who was left to grow up without his mum, now a grown man, Danny has spent his entire adult life campaigning for her, even setting up the dedicated public forum, Who Killed My Mum? Reflecting on the horror of what was done to his gentle mother, Danny shared these devastating words. She was a lovely woman who would not hurt a fly. She was friendly and would talk to anyone who would talk to her. There is no reason why someone would do what they did, and in no way what happened to her could ever be justified. The location where Patricia was found may reveal even more about the offender. Her body was concealed in Hartley Brook Dyke, a secluded brook hidden behind the houses on Deerlands Avenue. To make sure she remained hidden, the offender used a heavy discarded divan bed base found nearby to weigh down and conceal her body beneath the water. Investigators believe that required intimate knowledge of the area. Someone unfamiliar with the location would have been unlikely to know the secluded area or where to find something capable of hiding a body in the darkness. For years, South Yorkshire Police and Crime Stoppers have continued to appeal for someone to come forward, with a £10,000 reward still offered for information that could finally break that silence. The passage of time created further challenges. In 1997, DNA profiling required much larger samples than it does today. Without the forensic and digital tools available to investigators today, the offender was able to leave the scene without being identified. Nearly 3 decades on, Patricia Grainger's case remains unsolved, with investigators still waiting for one piece of evidence or the one person willing to come forward that could finally reveal the truth. Even during the day, parts of this area can feel entirely derelict. While filming here, not a single person passed me by. If the landscape is this isolated in broad daylight, it becomes painfully clear how this tragedy happened right here at Tong Gutter, without a witness to help Pat or call for help. In the late early hours of 10th of August 1997, there were absolutely no witnesses at the scene, leaving no one around to see the horror unfold, except for Pat and her killer. The 1997 murder of Pat Granger remains an open wound in the history of Sheffield true crime. A completely innocent, vulnerable 25-year-old mother was taken from her 5-year-old boy in the most sadistic manner imaginable. For nearly 3 decades, her killers walked the streets a free person, hiding a monstrous secret, while a family lives in permanent torment. Today, an active reward is still being held by Crime Stoppers for any piece of factual information that finally identifies her killer. Pat Granger was a lovely, kind and completely harmless young woman who deserved the long life full of safety, peace and the right to raise her son Daniel. True justice has been delayed for far too long, but Pat's story is far from over.